Jesus, according to them, had not been killed. That was the first error. They therefore prayed that if he wasn't killed on the cross, they needed to keep the sepulchre secure so that he would eventually die inside the tomb. But they were a day late. They were a day late because Jesus could have been removed from the tomb even on the Friday evening. So there's one peculiar feature about the alleged death of Jesus. Nowhere in the Gospels of Matthew, Mark, Luke, and John is a positive statement of an eyewitness recorded that Jesus died on the cross, or that he was dead, or that they removed him from the cross or placed him in the tomb. None of the disciples was present on the spot, and the Jews, as we already know, had their own particular doubt. Now, Mike gives us an indication that crucifixion, there's a very low chance of surviving crucifixion. Well, let me tell you this. In the Philippines, annually, people are crucified. They are nailed to the cross and they're hung up. And they are tied. This is one example. These are mass crucifixions that take place in the Philippines, where they are tied. And forget about the Philippines. Hier is 'n Afrikaner mens, Peter van der Berg. This South African didn't one better than the Filipinos. And this is from a town in KwaZulu-Natal called Newcastle, where this individual had a 6-inch nail driven through him. And he was basically put up and hanged up and kept there. And what happened? Did he die? Did he die through crucifixion? Of course not. A 4-inch nail was driven through Mr. van der Berg. An 18-inch spike was piercing his thigh. And basically, many people thought that the ceremony was disgusting. But the point is, he was crucified. He didn't die. So there is a high chance of surviving the particular crucifixion. In the Markan account, Pilate, when first requested to release the crucified body of Jesus for burial, expressed amazement that Jesus had died. Now, it's obvious that Luke and Matthew make no mention of this. Why not? Raymond Brown thinks that the reason that Matthew and Luke omitted mention of this is that the readers of Mark, learning of Pilate's initial doubt, may also exercise the same doubt. So in Mark's gospel, you have the doubt of Pilate, Pilate marveling. And if Matthew and Luke had those particular narratives, then we'd have a situation where basically the readers of Matthew, Luke, and subsequently John would have those same particular doubts. The next question Brown addresses was the length of time that Jesus had hung on the cross so short that his death might have amazed authority. I mean, let's look at it from this angle here. The fact that Jesus is believed to have been seen alive after the crucifixion may mean that he survived the attempt on his life, unless we have clear evidence that he died in the process. Let's look at Pontius Pilate. He was a man of influence. Did he want Jesus dead? Did he? No. According to the Bible, Pilate wanted to free Jesus, but the Jews said, we'll blackmail you if you free him and you're no longer a friend of Caesar's. So, if there was a way to let Jesus escape without him being blackmailed, and without a case to present to Caesar, in that particular case, basically Pilate would let him go free. Pilate's wife was another person of influence. According to the Bible, she was having nightmares on account of Jesus. Due to these nightmares, she told him no harm should come to Jesus. By the way, Mike could perhaps answer, where was the governor's wife on the night of Jesus' entombment? We may suppose she was with her husband. But then again, where was the husband? The centurion who was apparently in charge of the crucifixion proceedings was another person of influence declaring Jesus dead. But he believed in Jesus. He said, truly this man is the Son of God. He believed in Jesus before making the declaration that Jesus is dead. So after he believed in Jesus, what interest would he have in completing the act of killing Jesus? So if people thought that Jesus was dead and he knew that that was not the case, well, in that situation, let Jesus go free. But he had escaped death by the skin of his teeth. And again, where was the centurion on the night of the entombment of Jesus? We don't know. To sum up then, given the claim that Jesus appeared alive in the flesh to his disciples, a sheer analysis of the gospel records about the death of Jesus, coupled with a little common sense, leads us to suspect that his death was a gross misdiagnosis from a distance. In conclusion, Mike obviously cannot tell us when Jesus actually died. I want to skip these passages, but it's interesting that in the Garden of Gethsemane, before he goes to Gethsemane, Jesus prepares his disciples. He says, sit here while I pray yonder. And he took with him Peter and the two sons of Zebedee. And before going to Gethsemane, he tells them, how many of you have swords? Those who don't sell your garments and buy swords. Now, why would Jesus ask his disciples to buy swords? We know they never used them because of the Roman soldiers, but he was preparing to defend himself. In the Garden of Gethsemane, he began to be sorrowful, and Mike concedes this point where Jesus says, take this cup away from me. Take this burden away from me. Help me. Now, if someone asks God for help, will God not help? Luke paints it clearly. He says in being in agony, he started sweating, and his sweat was as if great drops of blood fell on the ground. The effectual fervent prayer of a rightful man availeth much. A cynic once remarked that it would even bring God down from his particular throne. We would say, when it says that God heard Jesus' prayer, it means that God accepted Jesus' prayer. And there appeared an angel strengthening him. So the Jews had miscalculated regarding the enthusiasm demonstrated by these disciples. And what happened at the most critical juncture? All his disciples forsook him and fled. We further told that the centurion saw that he was dead. Now, what does it mean? Did they have stethoscopes to verify that he was dead? Of course not. How could you witness 2,000 years ago? But even today, people who are certified dead in post-mortem reports are said to be living. Look at this. These are reports. The little girl who dies tells how she came back to life. Man died for 2 hours, still lives. He died for 4 minutes. Man's heart stops, but he lives on. Back from the dead after being thought dead for 2 days. Corpse wink at undertaker. Was he dead or alive? This is a society of people. Their challenge to having been dead and coming back from the dead. They were actually not dead, but they were certified dead by post-mortem reports. 2,000 years ago, there were no post-mortem reports, no specializations. We don't know what really happened. And the probability of Jesus surviving was exceptionally high. I do understand that I'm being given a time to stop. I'll just conclude on this particular point, that Daniel Smith, in the post-mortem vindication of Jesus in the sayings Q, argues that there was a Christian concept according to which Jesus was assumed into heaven. And according to Smith, this view is supported by the pre-Markan narrative. But whereas Smith insists that Jesus was taken up dead in the manner of Moses and Isaiah, his study also highlights that the Q gospel, which serves as a source for Matthew and Luke, do not speak of the death and resurrection of Jesus. The German scholar Dieter Zille argues on the basis of the Q gospel that the early belief entailed the assumption of Jesus alive into heaven, as was the case of Enoch and Elijah. And this position is the exact position, as I've argued, when the Quran says that they killed him not, nor crucified him, but it was made to appear so unto them. En omdat en hulle het hom nie gedood nie, en hulle het hom ook nie gekruisig nie. And that is basically what the Quranic position states. So I'll be interested in hearing what Mike suggests in the rebuttal, and I hope we can continue in this meaningful and amicable format. Thank you, and God bless you.